Welcome once again to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking on an institution that, well, it really defines culinary excellence across the globe.
It does.
It's an arbiter of taste and prestige so powerful that just one symbol in its little red book can change a chef's life, their business, their reputation, forever.
It's huge.
We are diving into the complex, the very secretive, and sometimes pretty explosive world of the Michelin Guide.
And it is a truly remarkable story, especially when you start to unpack the contradiction at its very core.
Right.
You have this French publication, it's over a century old, and it dictates the absolute pinnacle of global fine dining. But its entire existence is thanks to, and I mean, it's still funded by a tire company.
A tire company.
How does the ultimate authority on haute cuisine even relate to rubber and road maps? That connection, which seems almost impossible, is the foundation of this whole global empire.
It's the ultimate business pivot, isn't it? I mean, how did a company famous for tires and their wonderfully rotund mascot by GandM, the Michelin Man, how did they become the undisputed authority on whether a chef is just serving high-quality cooking or creating, an artistic masterpiece? That contradiction is really the mystery we're unraveling today.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to peel back that famous red cover and go way beyond the prestige. We need to understand not just what those stars really mean, but how this whole secretive system works.
Logistically, financially?
Exactly. And maybe most importantly, we have to look critically at the immense pressure, the financial deals, the controversies, the very real mental health costs that underpins this institution as it just expands aggressively into every new market.
So if you have ever looked at a 3-star review and wondered about the history, the sacrifices, the sheer expense that went into that one perfect plate, well, this deep dive is your shortcut to being very well informed.
Let's get into it.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start exactly where the story begins.
The very beginning.
France, the year 1900. And when Edouard and André Michelin first published their guide, the whole automotive landscape was, well, it was almost non-existent. Our sources say there were fewer than 3,000 cars.
In the entire country.
The entire country. Imagine that.
That number, it just puts everything into perspective. The guide was never, ever meant to be a gourmet rating system. It was pure marketing genius.
Just brilliant.
The brothers, they ran a tire factory. They needed to increase demand for their main product. So the goal was simple. Get people to drive, travel longer distances, wear down their tires.
And buy new ones. It's a beautifully simple market creation strategy. The first guide, Michelin, was basically an instruction manual to, ease the anxiety of early driving.
And they printed nearly 35,000 copies.
Which is a staggering number when you think about how few people actually owned a car. They were giving away like 7 copies for every vehicle in France.
And the guide itself, it reflected the real practical needs of road travel back then. It wasn't about fine dining at all.
Not at all.
It had maps, instructions for fixing tires, lists of mechanics, petrol stations, and some basic hotel listings. It was a utility, necessary tool if you were going on any kind of trip.
And this free booklet, they printed it for 20 years, even through World War I. But then we get to this pivotal moment, 1920, that just changed the whole direction of the guide.
Ah, yes, the 1920 moment. It's legendary in the guide's history. So the story goes, André Michelin was in a tire shop, and he saw copies of his guide being used to prop up a workbench.
Oh, no.
And he realized, because it was free, people treated it like it was disposable. So he came up with this principle. Man only truly respects what he pays for.
That's a harsh, but, a pretty pragmatic business lesson.
It is,
yeah.
Especially with the cost of printing all those guides. So they started charging for it. 7.50 francs, which was about $2.15 back in 1922.
And that small price tag, it instantly elevated the guide. It went from a free handout to a respected publication.
And that shift to a paid product was the catalyst for huge changes. First, they removed all advertisements. That was critical for signaling impartiality.
Good move.
Then they reorganized the restaurant listings into categories, showing they were getting serious about the culinary side. And third, and this is the most crucial part for their future reputation, they recruited a team of anonymous inspectors.
And that system, the anonymous paid review, is still the single most important thing today. It's the core promise of the whole brand. But the star system, we all know, that didn't just appear overnight.
No, it evolved. They started awarding stars in 1926, probably inspired by other travel guides. But at first, it was just a single star, a simple recognition of a good table.
The real structure we recognize came later, in 1931. That's when they introduced the 0, 1, 2, and 3-star hierarchy.
And then, in 1936, the official criteria were finally published, and publishing them was a masterstroke. It gave the whole system this formal, structured weight it needed to be taken seriously.
And its impact went beyond just food. I mean, it says a lot about their early dedication to map making that the 1939 guide was actually reprinted in 1944.
At the direct request of the Allied forces, right?
Exactly. They relied on its maps as the best, most up-to-date documents for navigating France during the liberation. It's an incredible little military footnote.
It really is. And when they started publishing again in 1945, after the war, the shortages were still a big problem. So Michelin actually put an up limit of just 2 stars until 1950.
Which shows how seriously they took the standards, even then.
This history shows a very French, very deliberate, slowly expanding institution. Their expansion was cautious. The first guide for Italy in 1956 had 0 stars in its first edition.
0.
And it wasn't until 1974 that the first guide to Britain since the 30s was published, and even then it awarded only 25 stars.
But then fast forward to the 21st century, and that pace just explodes. The strategy shifts from this careful European expansion to just rapid global market takeover.
It really does. 2005, the first American guide for New York City. Then the huge entry into Asia. Tokyo in 2007, Hong Kong and Macau in 2008.
And that global shift even changed their internal structure. In 2008, a really key change happened.
Right. Juliane Caspar, a German restaurateur, was appointed as the first woman and the first non-French editor-in-chief of the French edition. That was a huge symbolic move.
I remember the German paper Die Welt had that hilarious take on it. They said the decision was, like Mercedes announcing that its new director of product development is a Martian.
Yeah, given how the French traditionally view German food, that's about right. But the message was clear. Michelin was positioning itself as a universal, not just a French institution.
Which brings us right up to today, where the guide is published all over the world. But to really get the power of this thing, we have to talk about the criteria that dictate everything.
Okay, this is the heart of it. The stars. And the definitions are not casual, they are almost legalistic in their precision.
Let's start at the absolute top. The goal for every ambitious chef in the world. 3 Michelin stars.
The definition is completely unambiguous. Exceptional cuisine, worth a special journey.
The French phrasing is just as powerful. Une des meilleures cuisines vaut le voyage. So what does that actually mean for a restaurant?
It means the standard is nothing short of superlative. The cooking is by a chef at the absolute peak of their profession. Their dishes are basically art, destined to become classics.
So Michelin is literally telling you to plan your vacation around this one meal.
Exactly. Book flights, hotels, everything for the sole purpose of eating there. This means perfection is mandatory, not just in the food, but the ingredients, the service, the atmosphere. It requires a huge investment.
That sets the stakes incredibly high. Okay, let's contrast that with 2 stars. Excellent cooking worth a detour.
The jump here is still massive. 2 stars means the chef's personality and talent are obvious. The dishes are refined, inspired. You can see their signature style.
So you might not fly across the globe for it.
Right. But if you're in the region, say within a few hundred miles, Michelin is telling you to absolutely rearrange your travel plans to experience it. It's an endorsement of unique personal cooking.
And then the foundation of the whole system, the 1 star. High quality cooking, worth a stop.
The 1-star rating is all about consistency. The dishes have to have distinct flavors, be prepared to a consistently high standard using top quality ingredients. The inspectors are looking for technical mastery and reliability.
And for a young restaurant, getting that 1st star is life-changing. It validates everything.
Absolutely. Now, what makes these ratings so powerful is the process, the famous cloak of anonymity.
This is where they invest their whole reputation, right?
It's their ultimate differentiator. Inspectors visit anonymously. Critically, all their meals and expenses are paid for by Michelin. They take meticulous notes, write detailed reports, and then argue it out in these annual stars meetings.
And the lengths they go to for secrecy are just. They're extraordinary. We know that many of the company's own top executives have never even met an inspector.
And the inspectors are told not to tell anyone their line of work, not even their parents. It prevents any kind of influence or leaks. It really is a silent, secret service for food.
And that secrecy is why the guide has so much weight. When it's published each year in France, it's like the Academy Awards for food. Everyone is speculating.
Who gained a star, who lost one, is high drama.
They also have this rising stars designation, which is fascinating. It's like a signal to the industry that a restaurant is on the cusp of getting a star or another star.
It's basically high-level corporate foreshadowing. It directs attention and investment.
But the guide isn't just about super expensive meals, which is important. It's more than just the stars.
That's right. They recognize people want quality food at all kinds of price points, so you have other key designations.
The first, and probably the most loved by diners on a budget, is the Bib Gourmand.
Introduced in 1997, it highlights restaurants with exceptionally good food at moderate prices. And moderate is the key word here because it's determined by local economic standards.
So it's relative.
Totally relative. In 2022, a Bib Gourmand in Canada had to offer a two-course meal and dessert or wine for under 60 Canadian dollars. In a high-cost place like Switzerland, the limit was 70 Swiss francs, which, for Switzerland, is an amazing value.
And the Bib Gourmand is often a launch pad for talent. We saw that with the Chicago restaurant Kasama. They got a Bib Gourmand one year, then a full Michelin star the next, becoming America's only Michelin-starred Filipino restaurant.
It shows the guide can spot quality before the price gets crazy. And beyond price, they've also started to focus on sustainability. In 2020, they launched the Green Star,
which recognizes excellence in sustainable gastronomy. And a restaurant can hold it along with a regular star or a Bib Gourmand.
Exactly. The chef has to detail their whole vision for sustainability on the website, from waste management to local sourcing.
Which is really forward-thinking. But I did notice a strange detail in our source material. As of late 2025, the green stars weren't a searchable filter on their website anymore, even though they were still giving out the award.
Huh. That's
Yeah.
an interesting technical lapse. It suggests some kind of internal debate over how to prioritize it.
Maybe. And then for most restaurants that just serve really good food, there's the basic tier. It used to be called the plate, but now it's just selected restaurants.
It's the entry-level recognition.
And finally, we should just touch on the full scope of their ambition, because it's not just food.
No. They're trying to cover the whole travel experience. Starting in 2024, they made a massive move into hotels with the Michelin keys.
It's their attempt to do for hotels what they did for restaurants. And again, it's all based on anonymous assessment.
Based on 5 criteria: architecture and design, quality of service, personality, value, and contribution to the neighborhood.
Wait, so a tire company is now judging architecture and interior design. I mean, how far are they going to extend their brand authority? It's pretty bold.
It speaks to their confidence. And it extends to atmosphere, too. You have the forks and spoons rating, 1 to 5, for comfort. If they're colored red, it means it's a pleasant experience.
And don't forget the other symbols, the coin for budget menus, and then the grapes or sake sets for places with interesting drink selections. It really is meant to be a comprehensive travel Bible.
It is, which brings us to their global expansion and how they're paying for it.
Right. We established they've been expanding like crazy since the early 2000s. The scale is just massive.
It's a total explosion.
Yeah.
After New York and Tokyo, the 2020 saw this huge acceleration. Canada, Florida in 2022.
And then Vietnam, Malaysia, Estonia, the UAE, all in late 2022. And it hasn't slowed down. Now we're seeing Argentina, Mexico, Qatar, and this new massive American South edition for 2025.
And that level of rapid global mapping is very, very expensive for Michelin, which leads us directly into the most controversial part of their modern business model.
The pay-to-play system.
Exactly. This is where the whole narrative of integrity versus commerce really clashes. The guide's reputation is built on them paying for everything.
To ensure independence.
Right. But now, tourism boards and governments are paying them substantial fees, often 7-figure fees, just to get coverage in the first place.
It suggests the financial model has completely shifted. It's less independent publishing and more subsidized global marketing.
And we have concrete examples. In 2016, the Korea Tourism Organization paid over $1 million to commission the guide for South Korea.
And it's now the standard practice. Thailand's tourism authority paid about $4.4 million over 5 years. The Florida expansion was secured after tourism boards there paid up to $1.5 million.
Atlanta paid $1 million over 3 years. And the new Northeast Cities edition for Boston and Philadelphia is the same deal. Meet Boston reportedly paid over $1 million for 3 years of coverage.
So I have to ask the obvious question. How does Michelin justify taking $1.5 million payment from the very region they claim to be reviewing impartially? Isn't that a clear conflict of interest?
Well, their argument is that the payment just covers the cost of operations in new markets where they don't have a revenue stream yet.
Yeah.
Paying for inspectors, travel, meals.
but critics argue it prioritizes the expansion dollars over rigorous review.
Of course, the integrity is definitely tested when the group paying for the coverage is the one who benefits economically from good reviews. And it's not just new markets.
Right, this is extending to places they already covered.
Exactly. Countries like Hungary, Slovenia, and the Czech Republic now have to pay for their coverage to continue. It shows the guide is monetizing its prestige, basically turning into a subscription service for tourism boards.
So what are the actual implications of this on the guide's credibility?
It creates real problems.
Yeah.
In South Korea, the government officials who paid for the guide were reportedly unhappy with the quality. They cited inaccuracies, typos, translation errors.
You pay millions, you expect a certain standard.
And it compounds older criticisms. When the New York Guide launched in 2005, there were immediate complaints that it was biased towards formal French-style dining.
Right. The New York Times pointed out that a lot of really influential American restaurants got no stars, while a disproportionate number of starred places could be considered French.
Julian Nicolini from the Four Seasons famously said Michelin should stay in France. And that perceived bias is a huge problem now, that local governments are paying them to highlight local culinary styles that are often the exact opposite of formal French service.
It's that tension between their European roots and the diverse markets they're trying to monetize.
And despite all this, they continue to adapt their delivery. They went digital first in 2021, ending most of the print editions after 121 years.
Though they haven't totally abandoned print. As of 2024, a few key markets, France, Italy, Japan, Spain, are still in print. It's a nod to history.
But the future is clearly digital and financially negotiated.
Which brings us to the pressure cooker. Because getting a star is one thing, but the pursuit, the retention, it comes at a huge human cost. We need to start with the former inspector who broke the code of silence.
The most famous controversy is probably the 2004 tell-all book, L'Inspecteur se met à table, by Pascal Remy. He was a veteran inspector in France whose employment was terminated just before the book came out.
And he painted a scathing picture, didn't he? He described a lonely, underpaid life, driving around France for weeks, eating alone, under huge pressure to file these reports.
But his biggest allegation was that the guide had become shockingly lax because it was so understaffed.
And that's the most damaging accusation because it hits their core promise of consistency.
Right. Michelin claims they visit all 4,000 reviewed restaurants in France every 18 months. Remy claimed that because there were so few inspectors, he said only 5 by the time he left, it was more like 1 visit every 3.5 years for many places.
Which would mean they're working off years-old data. He also alleged favoritism, right? That famous chefs like Paul Bocuse were untouchable and weren't subject to the same scrutiny.
He did. And Michelin, of course, denied all of it. But they notably refused to say how many inspectors they actually employed in France, which only fueled the speculation.
And whether his claims were totally accurate or not, the pressure associated with those stars is tragically real.
The most heartbreaking example is the death of chef Bernard Loiseau in 2003. He was the 3-star chef, and it's widely believed he died by suicide after hearing rumors that his restaurant was about to be demoted to 2 stars.
That one story just cemented the psychological power of the stars. It turned retention into a life-or-death struggle.
But the pressure isn't just about losing stars.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's about the crushing cost of having them. There's this strange phenomenon of chefs trying to return their stars.
The unwanted star. It's fascinating because it just contradicts everything you'd assume about the award.
These chefs realized the star created the wrong kind of customer expectations. People would show up expecting formal luxury and then complain if the place was more casual, forcing the chef to spend money on decor and service they never wanted.
We've got a few big examples. Chef Julio Biasca in Spain. He got a star, felt it restricted his creativity, and spent years trying to get rid of it.
Then there was Skye Gingle in London. She got a star for a cafe in a greenhouse setting and was flooded with complaints from people expecting stuffy, formal dining. She tried to give it back and eventually left the restaurant.
And Frederic Duge in Belgium summed it up perfectly. He said, "People expect a starred chef to give his own artistic interpretation. I just want to make a really good shrimp croquette."
It's that tension between rewarding expensive art versus just pure, high-quality cooking. And of course, the most famous rejection was Marco Pierre White, who dramatically returned his 3 stars in 1999.
Citing the intense, unrelenting pressure.
And this pressure ties directly into the big labor and sustainability issues in fine dining. Critics say the guide, by favoring the most labor-intensive and expensive styles of cooking, inadvertently reward systems that rely on cheap or unpaid labor.
You're talking about staging.
Exactly. The unpaid internship, where aspiring chefs work insane hours, 14, 16 hours a day, for months with no pay. It's seen as necessary to achieve the standards Michelin rewards.
And this all came to a head at Noma in Copenhagen, which was frequently called the best restaurant in the world.
It did. Chef René Redzepi finally gave in to public pressure in 2022 and announced they would start paying all their interns.
And what happened next is so telling about the reality of this model.
After just 3 months of paying them, Redzepi announced that Noma was no longer financially sustainable and that the restaurant would close at the end of 2024. The pursuit of Michelin-level food, when you pay the true cost of labor, was financially ruinous.
It casts a huge shadow over the whole pursuit of perfection. And there are so many reports of workers in these kitchens facing long hours, low pay, and systemic abuse, all in the name of the star.
And while many chefs say the competition and prestige make it worthwhile, there is an undeniable human cost.
Let's end this section on a lighter note, though. A story about the guide's own imperfection. Because human error does happen.
The 2017 case. A small, humble workman's cafe called Bouche Oreille in Bourges, France, was accidentally given a full Michelin star.
They confused it with a high-end restaurant near Paris with a similar name.
And the result was chaos. The little cafe was suddenly slammed with sophisticated customers expecting 3-star artistry from a place that served simple blue-collar lunches. It was an instant, perfect demonstration of just how much power that tiny symbol holds.
Even when it's a mistake.
So we've really gone on the full journey today. The Michelin Guide started as a clever marketing tool to sell tires.
Just giving motorists practical information.
It then evolved through that key philosophical shift in 1920 to become this paid, professionally inspected guide.
And today, it operates as a globally influential, intensely secretive rating system. It uses this precise, almost legalistic language to define perfection, from worth a stop to worth a special journey.
But that prestige is now underpinned by a complex commercial model where cities and tourism boards are paying millions for inclusion.
And that quest for perfection comes with immense pressure, leading to tragic outcomes, chefs rejecting the stars, and really serious questions about labor and financial sustainability.
So what does this all mean for you, the diner? Well, the relentless pursuit of perfection, it undeniably drives innovation and quality. But our deep dive shows the hidden cost to the business owner, the worker, and the sanity of the chef.
Which raises an important and I think provocative question for you to mull over until our next deep dive.
We've established that countries and major cities, Thailand, Florida, Boston, are paying millions of dollars to the Guide for Inclusion.
So if you knew for a fact that the city you were visiting paid for its Michelin Guide, would that change how you view the quality, the consistency, the impartiality of the stars awarded to its restaurants?
That's something to think about. Thanks for listening.